You're now flying solo with your host, Steve-O Solo.
You guys should do this with me, by the way. There's a really, really cool... Did I lose the site? There's this really, really cool site. It's called sorta.app. Hashtag not sponsored. It's a really, really cool site because it's got... Let me look at it real quick. You could go through your Lord of the Rings films, which is not that hard to rank. It's got Disney live action. It's got starter Pokemon. It's got James Bond. It's got MCU. It's got Disney Pixar. It's got all kinds of really cool... And the way they format it for you to pick your rankings, it literally pits the movies up against each other. So you're like, I like that movie more. And then it brings up another movie. Like, oh, I like that one more. So it literally puts them up. Instead of just going like, oh, well, this is number 1, this is number 2. It actually does the work for you. And it's really fun because it will allow, as you'll see, it'll allow me to discuss things and explain why I like this movie more than this movie. And the Sorta app is just a really, really fun way to kind of do rankings. Let's just jump into this because I love rankings and I love talking about the movies. Right off the bat, Sorta is giving me a Solo versus The Rise of Skywalker. Which movie is better? Well, I don't determine what's better. I determine what I enjoy more, what I like more. My opinion is that one is better, but better... Let's make this an opinion piece and not try to be factual about it. Without question, hands down, both of these movies have issues. Solo, Rise of Skywalker, easy choice for me. Rise of Skywalker wins that one. Rogue One versus The Last Jedi. Rogue One, I said it earlier, it's my favorite of all the Disney movies. There's just, the final act of Rogue One is some of the best Star Wars we've ever had. The space battle, Vader, unbelievable stuff. Last Jedi is one of the more silly Star Wars movies. And this is one of my biggest pet peeves. I could go on a little tangent here and there, but one of my biggest pet peeves with storytelling is when a prequel series or a sequel series does something that makes all the other movies look stupid. I don't like when you inject something that's so big, so powerful, something that has so much history that completely shifts the story on stuff. The Last Jedi is full of that. There is so much just nonsense in this movie that has no support or backing or explanation that it doesn't make any sense. There's a conversation going on over in Discord right now that I saw earlier, and if you're not in our Discord, we have a dedicated Star Wars channel, free for all. You could talk about Star Wars, anything you want. That link is always down below for you YouTubers. And I think on podcasts, you could put links in the descriptions and stuff. But yeah, the link to our Discord will be there because talking Star Wars is great. But the perfect example, they're talking about Rogue One and blowing up the Death Star. In The Last Jedi, they used a spaceship basically as a world destruction bomb. How on earth did no one ever in the history of the world, and we're dealing with a lot of time, by the time we get to The Last Jedi, we've dealt with a lot of really smart people, we've dealt with a lot of just advanced minds and technology. You're telling me not one person ever came up with the idea of strapping a droid into a spaceship and flying it into the Death Star? At hyperspeed? Not once? No one ever came up with that idea? No? You can't convince me that scene was dope. The audio and the visual was so incredible. But to inject that into the 8th movie, it's like, wait, how dumb were all the previous people prior that they never once thought of the idea to use a spaceship as a weapon? I don't know. I just... 1 in a million chance. You take the chance. You take the chance. You take the chance. You fly a big-ass ship, light speed into the Death Star, see what happens. I would imagine you won't be able to control the laser that's about to blow up a planet. Just kind of my thought. That's kind of where my brain goes on stuff. But Rogue One or The Last Jedi, I'm picking Rogue One. Revenge of the Sith versus The Force Awakens. This is a good one. Force Awakens, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was safe. I thought it was exactly what it needed to be. Reintroducing Star Wars back into the world. Reintroducing Star Wars back into the fandom that thought that the prequels was the last Star Wars movie we were ever getting. I appreciate what they did. I appreciate the foundation that JJ laid with The Force Awakens. I thought it was a fun story. I thought it was really good. And I thought it's exactly what it needed to be under the circumstances and in the context of where everything was Star Wars. Revenge of the Sith is spectacular. Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite movies of all time. It has its problems like every other prequel movie does. The dialogue is weird. The green screen / blue screen, I'm not sure which one they used, made things very awkward and weird. But like I will talk about with all of the prequels, when you strip them down, get rid of the horrible dialogue, get rid of the random walking to nowhere and they're just in a big giant room. You strip all that stuff down, and the story of the prequels they're fantastic. Revenge of the Sith is the capper to that. Watching the final turn of Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader, his fight with Obi-Wan, and his just despair for what he's trying to save was just so good. The lines from Obi-Wan get me emotional. They're so good. That's like probably the best dialogue in all of the prequels. I thought we were brothers. You were the chosen one. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. I loved you, Anakin. Like all that stuff, like those lines hit really, really hard. And a common theme that you'll kind of see from my movie rankings has a lot to do with the emotional impact it has on me as a fan. So, Revenge of the Sith for me over Force Awakens. Oh, Phantom Menace versus Attack of the Clones. That's such a difficult decision. It seriously is a difficult decision. But Phantom Menace, I feel like it didn't need to exist. They should have started the prequels with Attack of the Clones. I didn't need to see Anakin as a child, especially after seeing Broom Boy later in the sequel trilogy. Just kind of hurts Anakin, I feel like. I could talk about that if anyone is curious. That said, Attack of the Clones has some of the most worthless dialogue and scenes that Star Wars has ever had. It still has important moments. It still has very, very key storytelling elements to Anakin and his development into flowing to the dark side. Phantom Menace introduced Darth Maul. Phantom Menace had pod racing. The Phantom Menace is also what introduced midichlorians to our world and Jar Jar Binks. So, picking between these two movies, it is so hard. I feel like I go back and forth on them every time. But primarily because without the Phantom Menace, there is no Darth Maul, I picked the Phantom Menace over Attack of the Clones. Empire Strikes Back versus Return of the Jedi. I'm surprised that we're getting this so early because it's going to kind of tip my hand on what I think is the best Star Wars movie of all time. I don't know if this is the right place for it. This should have been saved for later. But, spoiler alert, top 2 movies in Star Wars history. Yes, adding that Tusken Raider scene is what really makes the Clone Wars, because again, like I was talking about, it's the progression of Anakin to the dark side. I think it's really important. So Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. I will go down on history in saying that Empire Strikes Back is probably the better movie. From top to bottom, it's probably the better movie. But I will debate you, and I will take it all the way to my grave because I do not flip-flop on these anymore. I used to flip-flop on these like crazy. Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. Spoiler alert. It's impossible to not reveal that picking between these two. The moments in Return of the Jedi, and actually we could just save that till the end. I'll explain why later. But I'm picking Return of the Jedi over Empire Strikes Back. Solo versus A New Hope. The most pointless movie in Star Wars history versus the movie that started it all. A New Hope, without question. Not even a debate. A New Hope versus The Rise of Skywalker. I think that's an easy one also for me. I'm going New Hope there. The Force Awakens versus The Last Jedi. Based off of what I've said to this point, is there any debate as to what I'm going to pick? I will take The Force Awakens over Last Jedi all day. Rogue One versus The Force Awakens. I think this is a difficult decision. Because I really like The Force Awakens. I think it's a great movie. Again, I think it was perfect for what it needed to be. But I think Rogue One has hands down some of the best Star Wars that we've ever seen. I can't say that about The Force Awakens. There's really nothing in that movie that's just like, oh shit, that's a top 5 moment for me. Rogue One has that. Vader just wiping fools out is one of the best moments that we've ever had in Star Wars. It's something that we've all been waiting for a long time. So I'm going Rogue One over The Force Awakens. Revenge of the Sith versus Rogue One. It's a tough decision. Again, I got to go with the emotional factor to it. Rogue One, like I mentioned, has Vader in that space battle. But Revenge of the Sith launches Vader into being that character that we know. And Revenge of the Sith just brings more emotions out of me. So I'm going Revenge of the Sith. Empire Strike Back versus Attack of the Clones. Don't need to say anything there. Phantom Menace versus Empire Strikes Back. Not even a question. The Last Jedi versus Solo. Wow. That's a tough one. That is also one that I have in the past gone back and forth on. But I think I'm pretty locked into my beliefs and locked into my rankings on this one. It's so hard because everything I say about Solo could almost apply to The Last Jedi as well. My main cause for not liking Solo is damage that they do to one of the most iconic characters in the history of Star Wars. That's my main argument against The Last Jedi. They took a guy that we've known for so long and gave him character traits that don't exist without actually visually presenting what happened to him. Solo does have Donald Glover. That's true. Him as Lando was spectacular, and we'll definitely talk about him more later. But, again, I am on record saying Solo absolutely adds nothing to the universe. at least The Last Jedi adds something to the universe. We've got characters in Finn that I personally love. We've got more closure with Luke. We had the moment with Yoda, which, look, The Last Jedi has a lot of poop in it, but there are still, like, there are moments in The Last Jedi where I'm like, ooh, that's a good moment. It just then immediately gets overshadowed by something really dumb. The irony of this podcast being Flying Solo is the idea that it's not my favorite. Last Jedi it is. The Rise of Skywalker versus The Last Jedi. This, I feel like, is the debate that best friends break up over. Relationships get destroyed. Friendships gone. Fistfights break out. The Rise of Skywalker versus The Last Jedi. Rian Johnson's just absolute shit show of a movie versus J.J. Abrams' attempt to fix what he started with The Force Awakens. Based off that comment alone, I think you guys know where I'm going. The Rise of Skywalker. Thank you very much. The Last Jedi versus A New Hope. A New Hope. A New Hope versus The Force Awakens. A New Hope. Rogue One versus A New Hope. A New Hope. A New Hope versus Revenge of the Sith. A New Hope. Solo versus Attack of the Clones. Who cares? But because of that one Anakin scene alone and his development of growing, well, is it considered growing if it's things are happening in a negative way? His development into Vader alone makes Attack of the Clones better than Solo because it actually adds to the story. Attack of the Clones, Rise of Skywalker. I'm going with Rise of Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker or The Phantom Menace. Rise of Skywalker. Empire Strikes Back. The Rise of Skywalker. Empire Strikes Back. Last Jedi versus Empire. Empire versus Force Awakens. Empire. Rogue One versus Empire. Empire versus Revenge of the Sith. Empire. A New Hope versus Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back. And there we have it. There's the rankings. Done. Return of the Jedi. Empire Strikes Back. A New Hope. Revenge of the Sith. Rogue One. The Force Awakens. The Rise of Skywalker. The Last Jedi. The Phantom Menace. Attack of the Clones. And flying Solo at the bottom. Solo. A Star Wars story that nobody ever asked for. That is my list. That is where they live.